We've been doing movie nights for
years.
So Gen Xer and
a Gen Z. Random weird moments that the two of us have experienced, and there are a lot of those.
And he crashes them.
As you do.
It's like, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, where did this come from? Why are we singing?
I mean, you're not going to learn anything about the movies listening to us talk.
This is the Argo City Podcast. Film, conventions, and fan life with Maddie and Matthew.
Hello.
And we are back.
We have returned.
So, this week we have Movie Box of Boom.
We had the movie Wheel of Boom, which I have been very excited. I only had a couple things in the box this week, or in the wheel this week, but...
Hello.
What are you doing?
So, here's the thing. Actually, frequently we'll be joined on the podcast by our cat Sparky, and he'll sit quietly and we'll look at him. But tonight, his girlfriend has decided she really wants to hang out.
His sister. Not his girlfriend, his sister. But, yes, she was like... I'm looking at her because she's sitting on the table next to us. You were really, interested in this today, weren't you?
She was she's PMSing, and she's constantly...
wanting attention.
Yes, playing with your hair and doing strange things, which was distracting us from the movie.
Yeah, she literally attempted to jump up onto his lap to get onto the table next to us as we were talking. Literally right now as we were talking.
So,
Anyways.
But we haven't even talked about... What did we watch this week?
This week we watched Moana 2, which has been sitting in the box for a little while now. It's been a really long time since the first Moana movie came out.
It's been a long time since the first Moana movie came out, but not a long time necessarily since we watched it. I think it's only been maybe a year since it first came out off of your wheel for us on movie night.
Yes, it's been a while since I've seen it. Well, aside from our movie night thing. But yes.
Well, and I didn't see it when it came out. We didn't do this one in the theater. I could have
sworn that we did.
This may be another case of you did it with somebody else. You did not go with me to see this in the theater. And I have always had just a little bit of prejudice against this movie.
Really?
There was a big hype about this movie when it first came out. And it's the first Hawaiian princess, and a lot of emphasis on it being Hawaiian and
Polynesian and such.
And I'm like, yeah, but we have Lilo and Stitch, and this is your foray into Hawaiian culture, and this is.
I would say there's a difference there, though. Lilo and Stitch is semi-recent times, at least for that point. This is more like back in the day, back in the mythology and such.
I guess, but I don't know. To me, the attention and the emphasis always rubbed me the wrong way. But part of that's because Lilo and Stitch is a thing with me. Lilo and Stitch is one of my top 5 all-time favorite films. Mm-hmm. And, there's Sparky.
And there's Sparky joining her on the table.
Because he heard us recording and...
Oh, and now she left.
Yes, well, he heard us recording and he needed to be a part of it. So, Lilo and Stitch is one of my all-time favorite films. I'm actually not entirely pleased about the incoming remake, which, by the time this goes out, will have come and gone, and we'll know... Perhaps my opinion will change, but as it is, I am grinding my teeth and wishing a eternal, incurable itch upon anybody involved in the production of it.
Oh my gosh. But anyways, going back to the topic of Moana 2. Okay, so this movie originally ended up in my box because my manager... not the general one, but just one of the regular managers. Her daughter had gone to see it, and had brought like her granddaughter to see it, and she was talking about how good this movie was. And I had just never really seen a point in actually watching it, just because, I mean, yeah, I watched the first one when it came out because I was a lot younger back then, but like, I'm kind of iffy on these princess movies now. I had no reason to not start this sooner.
Well, and your reaction as we went into it was, this doesn't need a sequel, so why are we here?
Yeah, like Moana ended perfectly with a tight written bow, and I couldn't really see the point in this movie. But the thing I have to praise it for is this movie didn't feel like one of those rip-off sequels. This movie had its own unique story with its own unique characters, still in the same place, but it was completely cut off from the first movie. They didn't go back and reference it. They weren't like constantly trying to grab your attention from that. This was totally different.
There's no member berries in here. There's no, hey, you liked this in the first one, so let's do it. They really did do something different, and I feel like they kind of have to, though, because one of the things that appeals to me more in the first film than in this, I like that in the first film, Moana is a crazy nobody. She is nobody special. I mean, she's the chief's daughter, but essentially she is, who cares? And even as this begins, she's returning home after her latest excursion. She is a living piece of history, according to Moni, the kind of fanboy character
we'll
here.
Get more into that later. I will get more into that later.
And I'm like, I'm not as into this if she's a celebrity.
Really?
Yeah, the everyman kind of character would appeal more to me. So that's something that they have to overcome. But they do it by leaving the island pretty quickly and never going back. So on the ocean doesn't care if you're famous or not.
That's true.
That was something, though, too. Like, the ocean is my friend. And I know we kind of established some of this and some of these powers in the first one, but the ocean is my friend just bugs me because it flies in the face of every book that I've ever read. And I've read a lot of seafaring books. I have read Treasure Island. I have read all of Bernard Cornwell's Viking books. I have read all of the Hornblower books. I enjoy seafaring sailing books. There's a number of films here, not just the typical ones like Pirates of the Caribbean. There's stuff like Master and Commander as well.
I only knew 2 of those.
And out of all of it, the one lesson that I've taken away from all of my reading and films is that the ocean is not your friend. The ocean is trying to kill you. But I think that also would make it interesting. Okay, so the ocean is your friend, Moana. Which ocean? Is it just this ocean? What if you encounter an unfriendly ocean?
That's actually, that would be an interesting, like, side story or something. Huh. No, that's actually fascinating. That's putting a lot of weird ideas in my head. The songs in this movie were absolutely... A lot of them were really great. I had heard bits and pieces. We didn't really get a villain song, but the Bat Lady.
Yes,
her song in particular was really, really great. I'd heard bits and pieces of it, and I was waiting for it to come on, and I was like, oh.
Well, and you know what? That's actually a thing, like in the Bond movies or in anything where there's a good villain. We're talking about Matajani. A good villain will always tell you their plans. A fabulous villain will sing them to you.
Oh my gosh.
There's a moment in Muppets Treasure Island.
Oh my
gosh. I got it because it all comes back to the Muppets.
Oh my
where
gosh.
Tim Curry is playing along, John Silver, he's the villain, and he sings parts of his plan, and the other pirates start to join in, and he's like, "Step aside, boys, this is my only number." And it's all I can think about when Montajani's singing this. And I guess she's not truly a villain, but
like,
I don't know.
Honestly,
she does some villainous stuff.
Yeah, honestly, we don't spend nearly enough time with her to really get anything about her
No,
character.
we don't. We see her in silhouette sliding down the chain while Maui is trapped.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at like, I know it's not, but I swear that's Cersei. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's just that it's that archetype.
It's that archetype. And you were talking a little bit about that when we were in the movie.
It felt like that, and you'll see some of those similar archetypes repeated through. You're actually going through world religions, through mythology, and through that kind of stuff. You'll see some of those
right now we're
elements
Chinese.
going again and again and again. So it wouldn't surprise me, but there's just something about that. But she also does come off in a certain way as sinister. The first time that Moana encounters her, she's pretending to be her sister. Moana's knocked unconscious,
Right.
and her sister comes to her and tells her, "You failed. Everybody's going to hate you.
Yeah,
Everybody's going to die." And it's unbelievably creepy.
Yeah, it did feel a little bit out of place, especially because she turned nice so quick.
Well, she turned. I don't know if she turned nice.
Oh, maybe not.
She
nice.
wasn't, but she wasn't belligerent. I wonder what that. I need to know more because we don't get like you said, we don't get enough of her.
And I'm even gonna jump in here again. We essentially see no villains really throughout this movie. With the sky god that was controlling the thunder and stuff, trying to keep them from reaching this island, we never see a face, we never see a character. It's only the clouds, which I will say I parade them for making the enemy the nature around them, because that makes for a more interesting story. But we don't really have someone to aim the villainy aspect at.
And it's why we really do tag her as that. I wonder if in an earlier script, in an earlier revision,
maybe she had
that's
more of a point.
what it was. Because
she describes herself as his servant, as his helper. So I don't.
But Maui doesn't trust her as far as he can throw
Oh
her.
no, he was like, nope, I want nothing to do with this lady.
And there's something traditionally villainous, not only about her look, but about her aspect. And if you can hear Bugs in the background, she's agreeing with me on that.
Hi.
I wonder about her. Mm-hmm. In fact, I have an unpopular theory about this movie.
Okay. Why do you have the Hellraiser movie? Why are you holding this? What is this?
I think this is a Hellraiser movie.
What?
No, hang with me for a minute.
What?
Hang with me for a minute. So, and especially once I get around to showing you Hellraiser Part 2. But as soon as the lightning hits her, my first question is she dead? Is this the underworld? It's all blue-hued and negative. And then we get this song about, can I go beyond? That's everything that Hellraiser is about. It's about going beyond the limitations of human sensation. Giant clam monsters looks incredibly Hellraiser. The Maui's prediction. So I was trying to keep you from getting into this, but now that you're here, you're going to die. Your crew's going to die. And this time, even the chicken's going to die. The Bat Lady. So again, we go to Montajani. Montajani's impersonating her sister. Mm-hmm. This is torment. This is Moana trapped in her own personal hell. And it's horrifying. That's the most horrifying thing in this movie. On its surface, yeah, sure, that'll slide under a PG rating, but that disturbs me to the depths of my very soul.
This would only hit you to connect these two movies.
Let me take you even a step further.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let me show you the Cenobites. They have their own god, small g. It's called Leviathan.
Yeah, I'm aware of what Leviathan is.
Well, in the Hellraiser mythology, this is what Leviathan looks like.
It's just a... What's that shape?
It's a huge diamond
yeah.
floating in the air, and it will cast beams of darkness that project your worst fears and regrets.
Why is the character standing next to it putting its hands out in praise?
Because that's
Excited.
one of the Cenobites worshiping it on top of the labyrinth. Again, I have to actually show you part 2 because we'll go down into the place where they live to see all of this.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Okay, but let me go back to the tapestry that Moni shows. We have 2 mountains and a bunch of people, and above them is that same diamond shape, just like Leviathan.
Oh, my gosh.
I am convinced this is a secret Hellraiser movie.
You are ridiculous.
No. How do you get in the Hellraiser mythology? How do you get there? How do you summon the demons?
I don't remember. It's been almost 2 years since we've seen that movie.
You solve a puzzle. What if that puzzle is the notes or something to do with that clam that she's blowing? And she's blowing just the right combination to summon, to open the gate. I swear, Moana 2 is a Hellraiser movie.
Okay.
So this is my film theory.
Let's take a step away from your delusions. This is just ridiculous. Okay. I will comment on that one thing about the death thing, but I'm gonna leave that aside because that's
yes, because you did bring that up actually.
So, me and my dad are really big fans. Well, we were really big fans of like film theory, game theory, everything, Matt Pat, stuff like that. One of the theories that film theory projected was that Moana actually died in the first movie. And then in the first movie, her and Maui are making their way to like the underworld with like all the monsters, like the realm of the monsters. And she goes down and saying, if you jump in there, you will die. She goes down. She lays on the ground for a couple seconds, and he predicted that she had died at that point, and the rest of the movie was her journey to the afterlife. Like there was that there, and then you were also saying that Moana also died again in this movie. Which was
it
what
feels
we were going
like
into.
the imagery. It feels like it's trying to tell us that. And I know I'm claiming Gnostic knowledge, so it's not true. But I don't know. That's my headcanon, and I'm sticking with it. Tell me about. We talked about the songs. Tell me about the songs that you liked.
Okay, so I latched on to a couple of them. The first one was what was it called? I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was the motivational song that Maui sings to her while she's trying to get her
Oh, yeah.
That literally just the boom, boom, boom. I was sitting there and we were like not even a minute through the song and I'm like, yeah, this is going on the motivational playlist.
And you know
because
what?
I have a playlist like that along with everyone else in my generation.
It's so funny because, my generation, we just listened to the Rocky IV soundtrack, and that was it. But, it's funny because my reaction to that song was like, oh, filler. Can we get past this?
What?
It felt like it was just, okay, we got to hit a certain time, and to me, that did nothing for me. Mm-hmm. Which is weird. So I love that we have such divergent reactions to this.
Mm-hmm. Also, so during her song when she's singing on the ship with the rest of the crewmates, only the rap part sung by Loto. Literally only her section. I could care less about the rest of them.
Yeah.
Her section was just great. Okay,
let's put a pin in that for a moment because we're gonna.
I am gonna go on a rant. Shut up! I am going on a rant. Okay. I love Loto so much. She is a crazy inventor girl. The minute she showed up on screen, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be my favorite character. And yes, that continued on like that. I have a tendency to really love the insane inventors. And that tends to happen throughout almost every fandom that I'm a part of. You can ask my dad, you can ask me. You name one and I will have one for it.
And we just watched the first episode of Firefly. Yes. And I'm looking at Loti and I'm like, it's Kaylee.
It's my bubbly girl.
It's the one that you latched right onto.
Because I always latch on to the hyper-positive characters.
It's the one you're going like, this is my sunshine.
Exactly.
And she's the engineer.
Exactly.
And she's got a kind of muted version of crazy. But,
well, I mean, her throwing animals onto a mini boat into the water, I would say is kind of crazy.
I wonder what that is, too. Because people in fandom so frequently latch onto the engineers, onto the tech people, like your Mei Hatsume.
Yeah, like my Hatsume, my Hanji, my Nymphadora, I think in the She-Ra series. I don't remember.
In Star Trek, it's Scotty. It's just plain old Scott. It's plain Scotty all the way. And I just cosplayed him for Concoction. And I wonder what that is, because it feels like it's a thing. But you know what? At the same time, I'm not entirely certain that I'm surprised that you latch onto that. Because you, as a child, I brought you up watching Doctor Who.
That's true.
And that's that character. That's exactly who it is. Hyperactive, bubbly, positive engineer fixing everything.
Huh. And I'm just sitting here and I'm watching her, like, this dynamic between her and Moana reminds me of the dynamic between my best friends. I met my best friend Veronica during senior year, and one of the things that we immediately hooked on to each other with was our insanity that somehow managed to match. Me having ADHD, and her having it, like, well, not having it, like, off and on. The constant, like, running around trying to fix everything. I am essentially that all the time. I'm constantly bubbly, constantly moving. And she's just kind of sitting there like, okay, sure, I'll just go with you.
And then sometimes it can flip.
Exactly. Like when she gets into her really interesting rants about, what was it, Overwatch? And especially Dead by Daylight recently. She gets really into that stuff. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, I will play it with you someday. Not the horror one, but I'll try.
And it's like you're just going to, okay, so whichever one's in the role at the time, the other one's just in for the ride.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. That's literally, that describes it so perfectly. And it's like, and you actually made a comment on that too, saying like, yeah, and it can like switch either roles. And I'm like, yeah. And just her attempting to fix everything, her chopping the mantle off the boat to make it into like a raft whole thing, with her like fixing up things, and with her constant like negativity until suddenly she becomes the most positive person on the boat. And I just she was so much fun to watch. I loved her so much. Okay.
One of the things, can I tell you, one of the things I liked was, I did like the last song. I thought the last song was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But going back to, again, it's the Hellraiser song. It's the Can I Go Beyond. But I also really like that song. And I like a lot of what what they're singing there, and a lot of what it's talking about. Mm-hmm. And then the Batgirl, because I keep forgetting her name.
Something, I don't know.
And then Matangi reemphasizes it with this idea of trust the fall. We're going beyond what we know. You're going to fall. You're going to drown. You're going to fail. Trust the fall. There's a Sandman story. This is just a short story. It's not in any of the books. Mm-hmm. They literally published this as a one-shot in the Vertigo Jam. It's like a preview issue that they give away for pennies. And that brought me right back to this. The story is called Fear of Falling.
Yeah.
When Matangi says, trust the fall, this fear of falling comes straight to my mind. There's a moment where we've got a playwright. He's pulling out of his production because he's too afraid of what's going to happen next. And in his dreams, he meets the Sandman. He meets Morpheus, the Lord of Dreams. The Sandman? That is the Sandman. That is Morpheus.
That seems like such an odd design for the Sandman. But then again, I might be biased from the Guardians.
Well, he's sort of he's not a god, small g. He's another race similar to them. They call them the Endless. And they've always existed. He is, but there's a group of them. They've always existed. They'll never die. They exist outside of religion, outside of experience almost. And they're sort of the engines for experience. We simply refer to him as Dream. So, the thing that Dream says to this young man who's experiencing that fear is, if you don't climb, you're not going to fall. That's true. But is it that bad to fail? That hard to fall? Sometimes you wake, and sometimes, yes, you die. there's a third option. Sometimes you fly.
I always forget how much I always loved hearing you read.
That's what that song means to me. It's reinforcing that idea. Because, you know what, I've done a lot of different things in my life. I really feels like what she's trying to tell Moana. When you get that opportunity, just run after it. I have, sometimes some of my efforts have completely I've been in failing bands. I've been in failing churches. I've been in failing businesses. I've walked away from every single one of them learning something new. But man, I just want to do it. So, you want to give me a chance to run this nightclub? I'm going to do it. We're going to form this band. We're going to tour. We may end up with nobody ever hearing of High Cost of Living or Good News Messengers. I don't care. I'm going to do it. I'd rather have done it and failed than never done it at all. And that's really the push that I think that Matashani is giving Moana. And it pushes her straight into this really bizarre adventure, this bizarre conquest, this bizarre trip.
There was one other thing that I definitely really did like about this, and it's going to be kind of going a bit off course, but our resident historian, our resident fanfiction person, Moni, yes. The minute that he started describing it as fanfiction, I'm sitting here and I'm like, there's no way they're doing this. I will admit, like, I'm not shy to admit that I like to read fanfiction. It's some of the best stuff I've ever read because I'm a big fandom nerd. And I'm just sitting here like, he's drawing himself with, like, literally with Maui. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't have the words. This is freaking hilarious. And he's, even just the interactions when he finally meets Maui, he's just like, getting up in his face like,
I know.
I love you.
At some point, I have to show you a Holliston episode where the guys hit a convention and they do every terrible stereotype that you ever hear about. But I can't make fun of him for it. When I was a teenager, I was drawing Superman comics that had me friends with Clark Kent because it's all I ever wanted.
Yeah, and it was so interesting watching him like go through and doing that, and the fact we kept seeing more and more and more drawings of these, and it was I found that so cool. Even when Maui references it later on, saying like, what was it, like, that's something baiting? You'll know what it is in 2,000 years, and I'm just like, oh. Okay, of course you're going to reference this, and when no one knows this exists, why do you know that this exists?
And Maui's quite aware of this. He's like, somebody roll me over here. Not him. Yeah, no, Moni also annoys me a little bit. I don't like the modern idiom constantly getting thrown in there. But at the same time, I get what he's there for, and he has an arc. He is essential to this working, to this finally coming through. Yeah, there is a lot endearing about it. You know what we haven't talked about at all in like 25 minutes or so?
We've already been recording for 25 minutes.
We haven't talked about The Rock. Look, this is one of the reasons that you can get me to actually watch a Moana movie. Because I do actually like Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, he's cool.
Like, here, I have movies here with him in it. I enjoy him doing stuff.
He handed me Fast 5, Rampage, and Skyscraper.
And we're not even talking about Jumanji or any number of other ones.
Get around to watching Jumanji, too.
He's a lot of fun, though. And Maui is exactly him.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes him fun doing this, I don't know, is it just me, or is Maui just the Polynesian version of Thor?
Oh.
I mean, it is a demigod. It is that redemption arc and that constant need for redemption arc. But, I mean, they went almost on the nose here. Do you remember at one point Maui is going off and doing the selfless sacrifice against and the tattoos vanish?
Yeah.
And then we see him underneath the water, and he's with Moana, and the hook comes back to him, and the tattoos return, like the power return. I mean, it's so. And then even Moana gets her oar, and if somebody hasn't cosplayed that with some EL light, then you're doing it wrong.
Oh, that would be a cool cosplay.
But it's so on the nose. It feels like Thor to me, and that sort of homage speaks to me. It tells me how to feel about him, and where to go with that.
And like, I love Dwayne as well. He's a girl dad. He has 2 daughters. So I almost like to imagine, even just when the first one came out, when he had the opportunity to do it, he was like, I have to do this. My daughters will love it.
Robin Williams did Aladdin for that exact reason.
Really?
Yes, he wanted to do a film that his children could finally watch. And his daughter was a fan of Disney stuff. So it's like, I'm going to do the genie because of that.
Oh, that's cool.
I wouldn't be surprised if that still just kind of runs through Hollywood. There's a real love for that, especially among that contingent, yeah.
And the one other thing I really wanted to at least talk about, I am a big mythology nerd, and I don't know nearly enough about, like, polytheistic mythology to really talk much on it. But I was loving just, like, searching up about these gods, just, like, looking into them, and
it makes you want to learn more about it.
Yeah, it makes me want to learn more, and we get to see a lot more of that in the first movie than this one, because we only really talk about 2 of them in here.
But I was even noticing that, too, because it's like, and I literally sat there and I said, I don't know enough about this culture to speak intelligently on it. Like, when we see some of the ghosts and some of the imagery,
like the ancestries and
it looks Mayan to me, not Polynesian. And I don't know the connection there. And some of you are rolling your eyes at me, but that's the thing. I'm going to admit, I don't know it. Yeah. And it makes me want to learn more about it. Yeah,
and just like that whole thing in particular, when they were making the first Moana movie, the team of animators went to a Polynesian island, and they talked with the people there. They interacted with them. They made it as accurate as possible. So you know, at least a majority of what we're seeing in these movies is accurate. Well, the dances that they're doing, I want to hear those songs translated in English, because there were a lot of stuff, like a lot of chants they were saying. Why did the subtitles have to give up and not like tell us what these said?
But you see, I get some of that same feeling from Lilo and Stitch, because we get the Polynesian slang. We get David going, how's it? And stuff that is modern Hawaiian. I always felt like that was very, very, very faithful to the culture and to the modern culture, and a nice mixing of modernity and traditional Polynesian culture. So I'm not surprised to see that here as well.
I think that also brings me up to another point, which I find interesting. Like the difference between, especially with what we've talked about today, I find like the ancient history of these mythologies fascinating. And I find it interesting how you're more talking about like the front of this, like more recent times and how this relates to then. Like, I say this a lot, but I'm absolutely fascinated by Japanese culture. I don't know anything about anything about recent culture. I only know about like the ancient culture in the olden times.
And I would know more about the modern culture.
Exactly, and I think that's interesting where we differ there.
Yeah, a lot of my focus is more modern. You're right. That is a difference between the two of us.
I found that interesting.
Well, I think we have wrung every bit that we can out of our watching of Moana.
Yes.
So that is it for this week. It'll probably be Movie Box of Doom next week, unless we find ourselves at a convention or at
anything that would happen on my day off college.
or if the cats get in the way. Yeah. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.